Welcome back to the NASCAR Illustrated studio, everybody. I'm Stephen Levine. This is Tom Vandervoort.
And this is NASCAR Illustrated.
And look, who's on the cover?
Rowdy Busch.
Rowdy Busch making a rowdy resurgence.
He could be a favorite this week.
He could be a favorite, and we'll talk about drivers when Miss Sprint Cup gets here, our very special guest.
Yes,
but in the meantime, let's talk about the track. This is a race where traditionally keeping up with the track, with the changes of the track over time, are a key to victory.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, Charlotte has always been one of the most weather-changing tracks on the circuit. They used to say a cloud comes over and you're driving on a completely different racetrack. So adjusting to changes, that is going to be a big thing. Bear in mind, even though we have had the All-Star race, we do have a new race car here. We're going to go from the late afternoon/evening into the nighttime when we run this thing. There will be some changes, and I think you will see cars that maybe aren't quite as good at the beginning pick up some steam at the end. And the question is, you know, who adjusts to the racetrack? The best of all.
Right, and we have seen cars that start out this race really bad and end up winning. I think Kevin Harvick several years ago was nowhere at the beginning of this race, and then when the sun went down, all of a sudden his car came to him and he was very strong. But we also have to acknowledge that, yes, while this is a very long race, it is also a downforce track. We haven't seen a lot of tire fall off, so whoever is in the front of this pack towards the end of this race has a distinct advantage.
No question about it, and plus once the sun goes fully down and the track temperature kind of stays the same, and that's the interesting thing about this race is that you don't have to have tire wear to have the track change, right? The temperature is going to change. The track is going to change. How can you set your car up a little freer at the beginning and live with that? When the racetrack tightens up, you'll be in a good shape? I don't know. You can't get too far out of the ballpark early on or you will lose that track position, and track position will be, as you say, a key at the end. So I think it's an interesting dilemma for crew chiefs, or just mentally, how are you going to approach this race as a crew chief and a driver to stay on the lead lap and stay in position and try to have your car right when the sun goes down.
But if your driver seems out to lunch at the beginning of the race, don't get too down in the mouth, because he may be back by the end of the race. We're going to come
or she.
Sorry, Danica.
Sheesh.
We'll be back with with Miss Sprint Cup right after this to talk drivers and make our picks. All right, welcome back. As promised, Kim Kuhn, Miss Sprint Cup, the longest tenured Miss Sprint Cup.
Yes, that is true.
Pretty impressive.
Has joined us. To talk Coke 600. Now, just as a review, even though the last race wasn't a points-paying race.
I don't get this.
I'm in the lead at 16.
Because I won the last
Miss Sprint Cup is second in 15.
Yes.
And
even though I picked the winner in the All-Star
race. But it was
my choice for the Sprint All-Star was not bad either. Casey.
That's true.
He had the fastest pit stop on that mandatory 4-tire pit stop. I just want to put that out there.
He faded a little bit at the end.
I know, but he restarted for the last 10-lap shootout first.
Couldn't hold off my boy Jimmy.
The All-Star race was sort of a sprint. This weekend is more of a marathon, 600 miles, the longest race on the circuit. Are you going to stick with your boy, Casey King?
I want to, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like
let you down, Kim.
I feel like I'm jinxing him whenever I pick him. He always seems to do a little bit more poorly when I pick him.
And I think he's onto it, too. I think he's like, please, Kim.
You're going to spare him this time,
so I'm going to spare Casey in the hopes that maybe he will win if I don't pick him. But
so you're kind of getting in the pick of Casey without picking him.
A
little reverse psychology. So would you like my pick?
Yes, I would.
Okay. I'm going with Matt Kenseth. He got his first Sprint Cup Series win here. He's won not only the spring race here, but also the fall. He's dynamo this season. I think he could get his fourth win at the Coca-Cola 600.
Strong pick.
Of course.
And I think right now Matt Kenseth is really the only challenger to Jimmy Johnson. I mean, yes, Jimmy has a commanding lead in the points, but the season is early yet, and I think
we got the chase coming.
Matt Kenseth will have something to say about it.
He's like a sleeper. If you've seen the races he's won, like, he sleeps, and then towards the end, he's a little bit ninja.
He lulls you to sleep and then pounces.
All right.
He's got some ninja moves on the track.
I got to go with Jimmy again. Because I was looking at the stats. He has led almost twice as many laps, or maybe more than twice as many laps as Jeff Gordon, in about half the number of total laps run.
He's a dominant
This guy
force.
leads about 18% of the laps they run at this racetrack in his career. That is astounding.
But a lot of that comes from when he was very dominant during the Lowe's Motor Speedway
That's
era.
true. But, if you look at his results recently, you say, not so good. He was, 11th in this race, and then third in the fall. But then he was third, then had a couple wrecks. So that drives his average down. He still has an incredible average here. He looked dominant in last year's All-Star race. Not as dominant, but still won this year's All-Star race. I like Jimmy. Got to go with Jimmy. Got to stick with Jimmy. He won last week.
He's won 603 times.
So, Do it again. That's all I got to say.
Well, you know what? I'm going to stick with my All-Star race pick as well because I picked, if you remember, Kyle Busch, and I didn't see anything at the All-Star race to dissuade me that he was still a very strong contender to win the 600. If you look at his stats, just point-paying races at Charlotte, over the past 6, he's had 1 wreck and 5 top 5s. 4 of which have also been top 3s. He's had a couple of seconds. I think Kyle Busch is due at this track. He's due in this race. He was one of the fastest cars in the All-Star race. I'm going with Kyle Busch.
Well, I think between Kyle, Jimmy, and Matt, these are like the top performers for this year.
Yeah, we have Casey on the table.
Yeah, we left Casey on the table.
He's strong here, but I'm saying
Denny.
the season's top performers.
Yeah, no,
I mean, Kyle technically has 3 wins if you count the duels. Matt's got 3 wins. Jimmy's got, what, 3 and then
18,
19, 20
like
million? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, but that's all because of Chad Canal. Jimmy can't drive. Yeah, whatever.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Tom, I'm Steven. Check back here. We'll figure out how it all wrapped up next week.